Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Today we're going to go over future new reworks coming soon to a league. So basically what to expect with some old champions being updated over the next few months and into next season. Just so you know, at the very start what we're going to look at, we're going to look at Garen, we're going to look at Ivan, we're going to look at Kale, Aurelion Sol, Fiddlesticks, and also Volibear. We might throw in some others if we get time at the very end of it, but those are going to be the main ones. And we're going to start with Garen because that's probably going to be one of the soonest ones. It is a partial gameplay rework. It's aimed for 9.17 to 9.19, 9.20. So it's probably going to be in the next month or so. Let's start with his passive. So the regen is no longer going to double at lower health, and the cooldown has been flattened, like the refresh timer, to 6 seconds from 9 to 4, scaling with your level. One of the really big parts is that non-epic monsters will never break the regen now. This used to be a thing at level 11. It would swap so monsters just wouldn't take it off, and now it never does. The healing amount has been increased slightly to compensate that it no longer doubles at lower health totals. The W is getting a few tweaks, so the cooldown is longer and the resist cap at 30 now instead of 50. It's a stacking system, so it doesn't sound too bad, but you actually gain less per stack. You need 160 minions killed now to cap it out instead of 150, so it gives less and it takes longer to get it. Spin to win, your E is one of the major focuses of this whole rework. So right now it's 5 to 10 ticks of damage based on your level, but now it's going to be 8 plus 1 for every 12.5% attack speed that you have. The base damage and the AD ratio have been lowered to kind of compensate for the new amount of ticks, and plus hits needed to shred armor has been increased a little bit. It no longer deals bonus damage if it's only hitting a single target, but it does now deal 25% bonus damage, and it applies on-hit effects for 50% damage to the nearest enemy. Finally, with his ultimate, as we said, the villain system has been removed, and this was the system where the enemy champion with the most kills in the last 5 minutes was marked as a villain, and then your ultimate would do true damage to them instead. It actually now always deals true damage instead of normally magic, but the damage has been lowered slightly, and it's 10% less missing health damage. One of the biggest parts about this, actually, that I don't think is getting too much attention is the passive regen never turns off in the jungle now, even from the very start of the game. Jungle Garen legitimately could be really strong after these changes, as weird as that sounds, because you'll get that regen constantly while he clears. Your E is still going to do good damage. It actually ticks for more early game, starting at 8 ticks from 5. Now, one of the things that most people are probably going to focus on is your ultimate dealing true damage. It can actually deal 450 damage plus 30% of somebody's missing health as true damage, and that is pretty scary. There are other big parts as well, like his E now scales with attack speed, so you can get attack speed items on him, and that'll actually increase the amount of damage your E does, as well as your auto attacks afterwards. If you think about it, Wit's End would be a good example, right? It would give you 4 more ticks of damage just from that item. It would also apply its on hit effect though as you spun, so even if it's 50% damage, that is a lot of extra while you're ticking as well. It could open up a lot of different builds. We could have Blade the Ring King, we could have Wit's End, Rage Blade maybe as well, but not pin him into kind of like a bruiser with Black Cleaver Sterix every single game. That's kind of like a half rework, but one of the much bigger ones that won't ship right now, by the way, is to Ivan. It'll be pretty much a full gameplay rework. It will feel very different, at least anyway, and it's aimed for the preseason, so this is a lot further away. The main stuff is there's 2 new versions of his ultimate that they're testing with Daisy, and Ivan is actually going to be ranged now, not a bit of both. Let's start with that bit, because it sounds a little bit confusing, but basically, instead of him being melee normally with a buff to make him ranged, he'll now always be ranged, whether he's in a brush or not. Obviously then, if we move on to his W, that is no longer going to increase his range when he's standing in it, but it does give his allies the bonus damage now from that W if they enter one of his brushes. The damage right now from that is 30 to 60 and 30% of his AP, and it lasts for 3 seconds even after you leave the bush. The closest comparison would be Sensor, right? Giving kind of the same thing, and that is a 5 to 20 bonus damage and some attack speed. Now actually, if he shields you, then you would get both, right? Since he builds it as well, but basically 30 to 60 damage is actually a lot of damage to give to an ally, especially every ally. Ultimate version 1 is very different, no longer being able to control Daisy. You'll spawn her in a summon location and fight in that area for the entire duration. She'll focus on the nearest champion, though Ivan can still shield and make her jump to a target. That is very, very different, but version 2 is more similar, so it gives Daisy an entrance effect. When you summon her, she'll slow, damage, or knock back enemies where she lands, basically, and have that kind of impact immediately. They're also going to remove the 3-stack passive with this version and use a time system instead. The 3-stack passive is definitely pretty clunky. It's easy-ish to play around, so having a more time version would for sure help getting more stuns off in fights, and it would make Daisy better, but at least more reliable. It makes her more of a disruptor in team fights with the entrance as well, and the stun afterwards, so it's definitely going to be a lot stronger and harder to play against. Obviously, Daisy is really the big focus with this rework, but the damage applying to allies could be really big. I could definitely see him being stronger, being played more, but at the end of the day, this is still keeping his core as a supportive jungler, which is obviously a good thing, but is why I think he's pretty niche anyway, and not many people want to play him. So next up, we have 2 reworks coming pretty soon, most likely next patch in kind of like 2 weeks-ish in 9.17. So KO is one that gets talked about a lot. You might have already seen some videos on this actually, but there is a new version that just released again, which is very different. The short version is that you can stack your passive versus towers now. You get a ranged form at level 6, AoE at level 11, higher range at level 16, but no true damage. Your Q is also going to have a little bit of a different tweaks to it. So there is a new part to it, which refunds 50% of the mana cost if it hits a champion. The cast delay has been halved. They've slowed the missile speed a little bit, lowered the range, shred lowered to 15% from 20%, but the duration of that shred is up 1 second. Your E XQ damage has been changed to scale a bit better, so it's 8 to 12%, but you get 2% per 100 AP. Right now, that is 8 to 16%, but you get 1% to 100 AP. So late game with a full build, it should be better. On the passive damage part though, the AP ratio has been increased by 10% and the AD ratio increased by 20%. Finally, with your ultimate, the cooldown has been lowered to 120 to 80 seconds from 160 to 80. The mana cost has been lowered as well. It scales down 100 to 0 actually at rank 3 from 100 at every rank. The AoE radius has been increased a little bit and the AP ratio is up 10%. So the main thing about this will really be how the passive is going to work and feel in game, right? That will change how she feels to play for sure, because that is her kind of core gameplay mechanic. You definitely spike a lot less at level 11 now because you're going to be 525 range instead of 550. You don't get more attack speed anymore, and you have 5% less armor and magic resist shred. So even though it seems really good at that level 11 point, you're actually probably going to be weaker. The thing is, most mid games of a level 11 for KO doesn't really mean too much because you've been battered in lane so hard anyway. That might change a little bit because you get your range earlier for the lane phase now. Even if it is less, I think that's actually going to make a big difference and should hopefully make her mid game stronger anyway. Late game, there is no true damage, but there is more range, and I'm not sure if that really makes up for it honestly, because the true damage was seriously strong. One of the kind of counterparts to that, at least though, is there actually is more damage on your E, and remember your passive, the waves, that is your E damage, and those ratios are going up, so that will do more damage later into the game. The other partial rework slated for 9.17 is to a Radiant Soul, right? And the main thing really is your Q will now match his move speed, so you can actually do these long range Qs a lot easier, and your W has been changed to an actual spell, not a toggle. Similar idea, but a bit different. Starting with his passive, the star damage has been slightly reduced to base damage, and the AP ratio is now a flat 25% instead of scaling from less to go to higher. Your Q cooldown is going to go down with ranks as well, 11 to 7 seconds from 10, and the move speed has been doubled to 20% and will now keep up with Aurelian's speed as well. Your W is a really big part. This is why it's a rework, because it is a completely, well, relatively new spell. So it causes stars to expand, kind of like before, but now they gain increased damage, rotating at very high speed, which decays over time. If you reactivate it, or after 3 seconds, the stars retract and you gain 40% move speed, decaying over 1.5 seconds. It now has a cooldown because it's an actual spell. It goes from 8 to 2 seconds, and the mana cost is a 70 to 110 at rank 5. Finally, your E no longer gives you passive move speed, but the range has been increased, especially at rank 1, and the cooldown is actually up rank 1 as well, 80 instead of 60. Even though it seems very weird that the W isn't a toggle anymore, it is way harder to dodge now with the speed, and it's actually probably going to be a really good change. You might think it's a damage loss because you can't just keep it on the entire time, but actually it goes down to a 2-second cooldown at rank 5, which is only level 9. It's not that long into the game. It's not like you won't have a lot of damage still in teamfights because you'll be constantly spamming this out and it'll be harder to dodge. In comparison mana wise, which was kind of a major issue and why Radiant Soul would base all the time, it's about the same as kind of having like 1 to 2 seconds of having it active as it is right now. You get extra move speed after it's done. Honestly, it makes more sense, I feel like, anyway, where you expand it for a little bit, you do a burst of damage, and then you kind of cut around waiting for the cooldown again. One of the things that I haven't put in the changes, but it's also pretty good, is that your stars will no longer like deactivate and huddle into Aurelian if he gets crowd controlled. If you crowd control him doing his W, during his passive, whatever, he just won't go away anymore, so you still have to dodge these stars going around him even if you CC him. Those changes are coming very soon, but sometime later this year or next season, we have Fiddlesticks and Volibear full reworks. We don't know exactly what these are going to be like. I'm just going to warn you now. I'm not going to tell you that we do, but we do know some stuff about what they're going to look like. Looking at Fiddlesticks to start with, they're going to focus on his ultimate and making him kind of the best ambush character in the game. They're going to give him more tools to hide and create ways to ambush or trick enemies and start fights. One thing we do know is there will be fun new mechanics, their words, not mine, for team fights and outside as well. So there will definitely be some some new stuff that we haven't seen before in his kit. They want him to be powerful when he does set up this ambush, and if he manages to pull it off. And the play pattern for him is really that he hides, he catches people, and you need to track him down or fight him first. Otherwise, he is going to be really strong. All we have is a dev diary. We don't have a list of changes or anything, and it doesn't go into too much detail. We do know that his kit is being designed to support his ultimate, maybe some sort of stealth or like a way to hide as a passive or something. We definitely are going to have a few impactful abilities when he jumps in though, as they want him to be able to kill things he does find, and some of those will be new mechanics to Fiddlesticks. Volibear is actually pretty interesting because we do know a little bit more as well. They're going to focus on making him unstoppable, so you cannot immobilize him, kind of like a Saiyan ultimate. The difference here is though, this sounds like it's going to be a permanent effect and a passive. You can't ever immobilize him, you can't root him, you can't stun him, but instead he's going to turn those into a slow. That seems pretty insane to me. If a Volibear is going to run at me, I would like to stun him and run away, but apparently not. But he does still focus on being an auto attacker, and also actually his ultimate Chain Lightning has been moved to a passive instead of his ultimate. That sounds really strong to me. Obviously it's probably not going to do the same damage, but that's pretty cool. And then as an ultimate instead, we're going to have something more explosive and a bigger impact on his actual ultimate. One of the other things as well is it seems like his raw and his healing will be sticking around in his new version of the kit, but they'll be updated to be more of kind of like a modern version of it. So it seems like he's going to be a huge brawler tank that wants to auto attack a lot, heal, and roar his way through a fight with lightning and a very big ultimate. Sounds actually pretty cool and terrifying to play against. So those are going to be 6 reworks coming pretty soon, or some of them sooner than others, I guess, but that should give you an idea of what we should expect rework-wise and gameplay update-wise for the near future. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you're excited for down below, and for now, I will leave you with the robots.